I'm calling the California Building Standards Commission meeting to order. It is, would you be so kind to call the roll?
Secretary Badger. Commissioner Mickelton.
Here.
Commissioner Sasaki.
Here.
Commissioner Winkle.
Here.
Will be here. She's just running a little late due to air traffic.
Pledge allegiance to the liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Form looks like this. If you wish to comment on any room, are they? Yeah. Mia? Okay. Right on the back table. On the teleconference phone. Instructions. If you wish to make a comment on a specific agenda item, please by pressing 1 and then 0 on your keypad. The chair first, those that are here in the room, and will then move on to the participants on press 1 and then 0. When it is your turn to comment, you will hear, please through the call queue until there are no questions remaining. The commission will toggles your position in and out of the queue. Please press 1 using a telephone handset only. Clearly. Calling from a speakerphone or a cell phone reduces the quality of the audio and makes it much say we're going for public comment. Okay, I hope that's clear as mud. Meeting minutes. Commissioners, do you have any comments regarding the December 13th, 2016?
Approval.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Let me remind the commissioners to state your name. So, seconded to approve the meeting minutes of the December 13th, 2016 meeting. That I have my chairman hat on from Victims Compensation Board. Sorry.
Commissioner Barthman.
Yes.
Commissioner Booth.
Yes.
Commissioner Mickelton. Commissioner Santillan? Commissioner Legre?
It is the comments from the public on issues not on the agenda. Comments. I'd like to remind the public who are on the phone and wish to speak on this item to put yourself in. Okay, we don't have any speakers. Okay. Okay, seeing none, hearing none, that concludes agenda item number. There are 3 state agencies that will each present a finding of As I know everyone here today is well aware, in June injuring 7 others. 5 of those killed were the Irish exchange students' 19th, 2016 meeting. The working group met twice to review current building standards At the December 13th, 2016 commission meeting, the working group provided an amendments. During the meeting, several commissioners asked if the state agencies could propose agencies felt it prudent to move forward with emergency regulations, which is why possibly as soon as January 30th, we will hear from each and determine whether its finding is acceptable. The commission must either concur or not concur. Will be taken on the emergency regulations. If the commission concurs with the return for further study or approve as amended the proposed code change. (8930). The emergency regulations will add, amend, and or repeat of the California Building Code Part 2 and the California existing Secretary of State, possibly, again, as soon as January 30th, 2017. Commission on item 4A, finding of emergency. Please state your name.
Good morning, Secretary Badger.
I'm sorry, Gary, before you start, Excellent. And speak
I will
directly
do
to the
that
mic.
because I'm coming off a cold, so I'll
Yeah, I
speak
can
slowly.
tell.
Anyway.
Sorry about.
Thank you so much. Good morning, everyone. I'm Gary Fabian with Before you today are emergency regulations for exterior elevated elements from 3 as well as the Division of State Architect. For context, BSC mentioned here, but nonetheless, and the other 2 agencies will present their own findings involved in the emergency regs being presented to you today. And separately, BSC's emergency regulation express terms as item 4B. I have a little bit different information, added information. June 16th, injuries. At its April 19, 2016 meeting, the Building Standards Committee elements. And by way of definition, as for those especially in the audience, elevated walkway for pedestrians. On September 15th, 2016, of the Health and Safety Code. The first section directs a BSC working statutory or building standards changes. The second effort of this section to protect the public. The group shall submit recommended changes to appropriate state agencies, the acronym ICC, concluded its code development process which are the base national model codes for California's building code and existing. Specific ICC code changes which enhance the building standards for exterior elevated easily achieved and increase the level of safety for the public, and that there should this commission heard from the subcommittee of information from sources including the City of Berkeley, there was discussion of recently approved provisions for the upcoming national code. Day. Other things I wish to point out is that in IBC Chapter 34 into its IEBC, the existing building code. was deleted because ICC felt language in its property management codes existing building code, it no longer carries the maintenance section, the maintenance provision. Require local jurisdictions to inspect properties, but merely restores the previous intent to and increase public safety and welfare. BSC proposes the adoption of BSC's authority includes state buildings and existing state residential occupancies. The proposed emergency regulations amend the building administrative and technical sections that are amended or added to Part 2 Also, administrative sections are added to Part 10. Industry, design, construction, and inspection. So through a group effort of these regulations. As far as time frame is concerned, BSC already conducted its workshop in those regulations, and when and if approved, those regulations would not be the provisions from the 2018 ICC Model Code. Proposes the adoption of these building standards through the emergency adoption process. With the Secretary of State, our target date is January 30 of 2017. BSC requests the Commission to concur with this finding of emergency.
Item 4A is now open for the Commissioners' discussion.
The commissioners to adopt the finding of emergency so we can move on to adopt the but this is something that's readily done. It's modeled on the 18 code. It's to support the emergency and the express terms.
Right, thank you. Are there any other comments?
From the ICC.
Oh, wow. That's a good question. Or Mia
Mike or
to
Mia.
respond to that.
Well, we would have to look into why, but I do know that there are several local but it's not something that we had, I don't know the history on it. I have to get back to you.
ICC has been trying to park provisions where they belong in various in one place. I would say that property maintenance code, if it's adopted, is the right place, but I would expect that people want to have in their local codes are in that document. But I think this is
Anything to add to that?
Yes, this is Mike with Building Standards Commission. They and the Building Standards Code directly relates and deals with the building standards for construction. Post-occupancy requirements for the buildings, but not something the state has typically adopted on behalf of the local.
Any other commissioners who wish to speak? Yes, Mr. Booth. So sorry, Commissioner Booth. We now need to take comments from the public on Elisa Stinson, I believe, is here and wishes to speak on this matter. Once you are seated. Good morning.
Good morning, Madam Secretary and Commissioners. My name is Alyssa Stinson. C and HCD's emergency packages. But first, I would like to extend apologies on behalf of both CBIA and the California Apartment Associations. Both CBIA and CBIA will work with the staff of HCD and BSC to get the word out to our membership immediately. Thank you.
Or A? Yes, if you would like to come forward. And once C. One second, I want to make sure the people on the phone are queuing, because after we're done with the public comment, we'll.
Donahue, and I am the mother of Ashley Donahue. Irish exchange students, which one of those Irish exchange students was also my niece. So as these kids on the ground. So I really appreciate because my life was totally changed when I lost my daughter. When the teenagers don't drink and drive, don't text and drive, but how many of you would ever in a million years States of America as it could collapse. None of us would ever in a million years want to see another balcony or deck or walkway or whatever, and more injury. It's been hell for us, and this could have been prevented. ASAP, so no family will ever have to go through what we're going through again. Balconies or walkways or whatever. And I really do believe that inspection speak, I really do appreciate it, and I really appreciate all the work and support that's gone.
Donahue, and I hope you will accept once again the sincere condolences in the audience who'd like to address the commission on item 4A. Okay, seeing none, we will now take
Good morning. My name is Bill Lees. I'm with deckexpert.com. On balconies such as the balcony at Berkeley that fell was an overly much easier. I would ask that the Commission consider requiring balconies to be waterproof. My other question is in regards to consideration for the manufacturer. This may affect the ICC evaluation test for fire rating. I also have some other questions and some thoughts and comments on requiring architects. Form a classification for licensing waterproofing contracts. And the Sieg Construction, or I'm sorry, R Brothers Construction. They're a test of any knowledge whatsoever. So these are things that the committee needs to consider.
would like to address item 4A, action for finding of an emergency today. Portion, I will turn item 4A, hi Ellie, 4A back over.
Approval, item 4A.
Thank you. Yeah, Pam, thank you.
Commissioner Klaus Buckner,
Yes.
Commissioner Mickelton,
Yes.
Commissioner Santillan, Commissioner Legray.
Item 4B, the California Building Standards Commission will now present item 4.
Secretary. Gary Fabian with the staff of Building Standards Commission. Proposed. The first 5 and the last 2 of which are based on proposed California and National Model Code language until current additions. BSC Vanguard new construction, that includes additions and alterations. The remaining provisions elements in parts 2 and 10 of Title 24. BSC requests the
Proposed item 4B. 4B is now open to the commissioners for comment. Yes, Ellie.
Walking surfaces, and there is no definition at this time, and it would be better to have some form of definition for that, whether it at this point.
Is there any, Mia or Steve, do you have any comments?
In the absence of a definition, I think you fall back on Webster's and that, or whatever. Code has a definition for that element. It certainly is not in the current code. AIA about whether people have any difficulty defining this. I think that I do, and you're going to inspect it. So I think it actually gives you more flexibility.
The only comment that I had was on page 3 of 3, section 109. In the sentence, it does, starting with impervious moisture barrier system.
from ICC, yes, and didn't catch it.
May not be. Yeah, we got that. Thank you. Good.
I wonder whether there was discussion for the last sentence of as a practicing architect. I can imagine that different jurisdictions may instruction packet of PDFs pasted onto the drawings to sort of so the practical, as we look at what actually happened, I don't know if it was on the drawings or hidden in the specifications somewhere, but I would just worry because I know to prevent that. So I wonder if there was discussion about exactly what this should.
2 of construction documents allows written as well of the design process speak with one voice. So I think you'll find a little larger documents speak with one voice. So I think that as far as the local, also within the specification, and probably beyond that, because it also includes shop drawings and things like probably a lot of vehicles that could be used in order to present the information from the design team. You know, proper expectation.
Right, and the reality is that that this is being followed, then they're not going to have that document unless piece of waterproofing.
I understand, and that'll be a good topic of discussion during the certifying. Reckon with.
Right, and that was actually going to be my suggestion, that in the full rulemaking that the expectations for architects is clear, and the expectations that
Mr. Vice Chair.
Having participated in the development of that language, I heard from several architects exactly the same concern about that. Of things are not overlooked by design professionals and the regulatory community, but worthless information, but figure out what the valuable information is to get it into the field.
Comments from the members of the public on item 4B. And I do have a couple. Again, you queue by pressing 1 and then 0. We will go to
Good morning, Madam Chair, Commissioners, and state agency representatives. Thank the Commission, the Ad hoc Committee, and the state agencies for your effort on this important area. Department of Housing as part of the EEE subcommittee, ad hoc committee. Action to improve the safety for building occupants. These provisions, whereas these amendments do include some important provisions which will improve performance of used to support moisture permeable floors where the balcony or other elevated walking surface Section 2304.12 to amend model code language to improve the amended to require the use of preservative treated wood where used to support moisture permeable a very important element of this problem which is not addressed by the 2018 for all EEEs where the balcony or other surface is exposed to water can and safety of triple-E's. This is an issue of statewide significance during the certifying rulemaking to for these types of elements. Understand that this may open up the issue approach must include a discussion about the decay resistance of the wood structural It may not be available as a change to the model code until the 2021 IB. These types of balconies across the state. And as building safety officials and policymakers, if these changes are made to the California Building Code, the end result may be that the increase building safety across the nation and even other countries who adopt the
Questions of Mr. Kraus? Okay, thank you, sir. We now once seated, if you could just please state your name and title if appropriate.
Of the National Design Specification, which is the structural provisions for wood. Thank you. We're also the author of the majority to develop and get code changes through the process, but our deadline to have these changes was to many of the deliberations of the team that was at least at the time that these documents were put together, it was inconclusive. Cases it could potentially hinder the performance, and so that's why that option reacts with the fasteners in some cases and causes corrosions, which can lead to the premature for these members, and in some cases limits it to materials that deliberation to look at potential new code changes or the addition of that. Concern is and how best to address it. The one I've been working with codes for a long and so there could be some unintended consequences with the preservative treatment. The other thing I'll add is the exact issue of the cause of the collapse, because in working to put together these code changes, with the commission and state agencies if there's further changes to be considered. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Richardson. Should they be passed today?
Well, and am I on? Yeah.
Yep.
Not only that, the gentleman who again and gather information from all the design professionals and the public.
It will be noticed. I mean, we will let the
absolute-
public know
absolutely.
of that. Yeah.
And the other part of the time, the state agencies will conduct a rulemaking, and part of that rulemaking is can extend that 180 days if we need to. So we'll have to see how the certifying input from all the design parties is critical.
Thank you.
Thank you. Leanne will please check the phones.
You have
.com, and I was listening in on these comments, and I would like to first say that I concur with Mr. Richards. So I'd like to ask or comment on there were several flaws in it that I saw as a expert when I text. Very often I found that they don't understand deck waterproofing and requirements. They don't understand covering over decks and getting them done waterproofed early. They don't usually inspect that and sign off on allowing you to cover it until everything is done. Waterproofed early and water intrusion was kept at bay. That balcony is foolhardy. Secondly, I'd like to say that I think that contractors can just go into wholesale places and buy materials without having to eliminate a lot of the problems that we see in the industry. I think that also as a balcony inspector myself, I've performed over 80 balcony inspections this past year. Plywood. There's just a whole host of problems out there with balconies, and the way to your time, everyone. Thank you for allowing me to comment.
Thank you, Mr. Leese. Going to the next person.
I'm an architect, and I just had a couple comments on this item. There used to be a requirement in the code to have a notice of that a post-construction inspection of decking could be included in Chapter. I don't see why engineered system and not a part of conventional framing. I also wanted to encourage the Commission to consider the live load table. A part of decking, walkways and elevated platforms, item number 34. I mean, I think having 100 in there is good, and nothing in between. Those are just matrix, and have minimum deflection noted there as well.
Question remaining.
Apologies. Good morning, Madam Chair and Commissioners. My name is Colum Hatchell. I'm the Vice Consul. Pleased to be able to join you by teleconference this morning. The Jackie Donoghue this morning, but the deaths of Jackie's daughter Ashley, her niece Olivia Burke, Aoife Beery, Clodagh Cogley, Jack Halpin, Conor Flynn, Sean Fahey, and wish of all of the families to improve building regulations in California, as Jackie has already said. Political levels in Ireland, including our Prime Minister. So we very warmly welcome on presenting the emergency regulations here today, and we urge approval of the regulations. Of the EEE subcommittee and offer all the support we can to these efforts. Thank you.
Been very helpful during this very tragic period of time. And that, is there anyone else on the phone, Leanne? I think.
You have.
Commissioners, and entertain a motion at this time to consider the.
Second.
It has been moved and seconded to approve the adoption.
Commissioner Barthman?
Yes.
Commissioner Commissioner Sasaki?
Aye.
Commissioner Winkle?
Yes.
Commissioner Patel?
Adopt the proposed emergency regulations by the California Building Standards Commission. Thank you very much. Thank you all. Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to start in about a minute or two, so if you can make your way to your seat. Going to get started in just a minute, please.
With like a special thing. Right, no, right. So I'm just thinking for the actual rulemaking.
Okay. The Okay, thank you. Next item on the agenda is item 5A, the Division of State Architects finding
Yes, my name is Jim Hackett. I'm the principal structural engineer of our Codes and Standards unit. Responsible for doing a lot of the preparation of this package.
Welcome, Diane.
Hopefully, Diane. Exterior elevated elements, or the triple E's, and which we will then follow with our express terms as well. The proposed protections are really truly essential also to public.
a little better. The mic needs to be
Okay.
adjusted. Thank you.
Thank you. I'd also like to for the finding of emergency, since we did work so closely with the building standards, in the interest of time and with the commission's consent, we would move forward. Okay. DSA does agree with the enhanced provisions that were adopted and ventilation of exterior exposed elements. The waiting
Hang on a second.
Hi, Jim. Just quick question. Are you asking that the
Are you is addressing the emergency or the rate? Because we have to
finding of
first.
emergency.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, I'm sorry. Not the right thing to do. And therefore DSA requests the commission to approve the finding of emergency.
You, Jim. Item 5A, action of finding of emergency, the Division of State Architects. Comments from members of the public on item 5A. I don't have any cards that have been submitted. The phone. Again, please make sure that you place yourself in the queue by pressing 1. Landline, if at all possible, and try not to put us on a speaker. It's very hard to. Thank you, Leanne. Okay, that concludes the public comment portion. I will. Finding of emergency. Do I have a motion? of emergency. Is there any further comment on this item by the commission? Okay, seeing none, Pam, could you?
Commissioner Mickelton,
Yes.
Commissioner Sasaki,
Aye.
Commissioner.
The motion carries. Thank you. All right, we will move on to item 5B. Present us an overview of the proposed regulations.
Yes, I'd be delighted. The California existing building code, and they're presented packaged together in one package. Chapter 1 include administrative conditions relating to weatherproofing requirements, and in Chapter enhanced live loading on the balconies. The Part 10 also reintroduce the maintenance responsibilities for the owners of and as I believe will be proposed by HCD, is that DSA does not include to require periodic inspection of the existing elevated elements. What we do believe is appropriate is to reintroduce those maintenance provisions that we find for the enhanced protection.
Okay, thank you, Jim, for that overview. Item 5B is now open.
Last meeting, you mentioned that by adopting these in the future, or is that
That's in the future. That I don't think code, which is dealing just with the installation of waterproofing, and it doesn't have the it's a work in progress.
Okay. Any other comments or questions?
Already having jurisdiction, I would hope that DSA would take the lead in kind of pages of two-point type of installation instructions, which isn't going to do anybody any. Of especially specialized waterproofing systems, so that I mean, Eric. Regulatory side in terms of wearing your review hat when you're looking at
Go ahead.
No, I agree. We currently do require our applications, but there are so many new specialty products that do keep coming up that it is
Mickelton, I was going to add that I was actually just talking to Dennis about the idea that maybe these could be things like fire sprinklers. So that's a very discrete package of information and drawings that out in that fashion, it could ensure a number of things. One is that people pay the building department or agency has the opportunity to look at it all in one place. Special thing doesn't get kind of lost in the shuffle. So I kind of just sort of thinking just today. In the specifications only.
Thank you for the recommendations. We'll absolutely consider that.
Item 5B. At this time, I would like to remind the public who are on the phone and wish to speak, who would like to. Okay, seeing none. Leanne, then let's check the phones, please.
This is Bill Lees again with deckexpert.com, and I'd just simply like to go back to understand the details required for waterproofing, and because the typical way that they set of plans, but understanding how they always relate to the rest of the deck project that needs. Opportunities for architects to understand these critical waterproofing details. A system that was properly sloped and flashed. So I think it's an important thing to look at. Yes.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you for your comments. Leanne, is that concludes the public comment portion. I will turn item 5B back over to the. Is there a motion?
Commissioner Mickelton, move to approve.
Commissioner Winkle, second.
Commissioner Barthman,
Yes.
Commissioner Booth,
Yes.
Commissioner Klossbeck, Commissioner Patel,
Yes.
Commissioner Santion,
Yes.
Commissioner
The next item on the agenda is item 6A. Thank you, Jim. And I see an HCD representatives have seated themselves at the.
Commissioners, my name is Sean Huff. I'm the Assistant Deputy Director for the Division of Codes and Standards, representing
Thank you.
Shall I repeat again?
I
Okay.
think we're good. I just want
CBSC, Gary Fabian, for his presentation on the multi-agency valuable time in ours. I don't want to rehash all the other conversations that we've had with regards to with the evaluation. There's been similar failures at the residential level. Due to the enclosed nature of many of these assemblies, decay, damage, we've determined that adoption of these building standards is necessary for the immediate preservation of public peace. With that said, we will from the audience has commented as well, and as we go through, if we're approved, see adoption. So in close, we'd like to ask for approval of our emergency findings.
And comment. Okay, seeing none, we will now take comments from the public. To please put yourself in the queue by pressing 1 and then 0. Is there anyone
remaining?
Thank you, Leanne. That concludes the public comment portion. I will turn of emergency. Is there a motion?
Commissioner Sasaki, move.
Emergency, excuse me. Pam, could you please call the roll?
Commissioner Barthman?
Yes.
Aye.
Commissioner Winkle?
Yes.
Commissioner Patel?
Motion has carried. We will move on now to the next item, which is item 6B. State your name and title.
Yes, ma'am.
And that of Diane as well.
Sean Huff and Emily Withers with the Department of
Emily.
Housing. The following components, which are similar to the other state agencies. HCD's application in the balconies and walking surfaces in both the CBC and CBC-EBC. Has been added, and amendment of sections related to wood construction and the CBC requirement is subject to moisture. Additionally, there's a reestablishment, which has been talked about earlier. Require inspections of existing buildings. That is the short summary.
That overview. We will now take comments from members of the public on item 6B. pressing, excuse me, number 1 and number 0.
Go to the commission already for the,
I'm sorry. This is what happens when we have this.
that's okay.
Commissioner Sasaki, I have a know whether or not there were any decks or balconies.
I'm looking at Dennis Richards. These changes are in the IBC, so they would not apply to 1 and 2 family dwellings. Remember whether any of these changes went into the IRC. Yeah.
IRC that I think dealt with the structural live load. That put those together was to put it in a kind of a tabular format because there's no or Seattle or WABA, Washington Association of Building Officials, so there is some information out. If there were any, there is a specific requirement though in the IRC though that does require and also there was a question earlier, I believe, about does this create a fire issue, and is a solution if somebody has an issue cutting in the ventilation to basically put the sprinkler head.
Commissioners or comments?
I
Okay,
would only follow up with Commissioner Sasaki if I would on his
Sure,
question.
sure.
A design professional wished to build solely out of the CBC, which is another HCD amendment, then it would be
Okay. We'll now take comments from members of the public, and I do have a couple. Okay, Kyle, I think you've submitted. Did you want to speak to this? Okay, thank you. Is there anyone else from the public that would like to speak at this time on item 6B? Okay.
One final comment for the members.
Is this
NYDeckExpert.com reiterates that pedestrian traffic coatings may be an easier deck at Berkeley, for example, had a concrete overburden on top of the waterproof, which without the other side, an access vent underneath to be able to look into the bay would also to making sure that hotels, apartments, and such like that house people for rent apartment owners who did not want to put money into dangerous balconies that
Is there anyone else on the phone?
You have 0 questions remaining.
Motion at this time to consider the Department of Housing and Community Development Thank you. It has been moved and seconded to adopt the proposed emergency regulations from the Department of Housing.
Buckner? Yes. Commissioner Mickelton?
Yes.
Commissioner Commissioner Allegre?
Yes.
Thank you, Pam. The vote is unanimous and the really was 15 minutes. I think you all like 15 minutes at this time, so please be back. Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to get started. If you could please take your seats. Yes.
Commissioner Patel, I just had one clarification that I wanted to ask staff. Occupancy specifically regulated by those agencies. So for HCD, it would apply to multifamily.
That's correct. Hello? Yes, that's correct. You're accurate. So the bill adopting the whole model code, and those were within the model code, all occupancies, okay? Issue an information bulletin, which will go out to all the local jurisdictions and the design profession. So that way the local jurisdictions know what needs to be enforced at the local level. But you're and generally we put a paragraph or so restating that in the information bulletin.
Building code and applies to all occupancies, but it really doesn't
That
for this
was,
temporary
yes,
period.
thank you, and we will clarify that.
For the
IBC, so it's not in the 15 code.
on its collaboration and outreach with the disability access community relative to the '16 2016 Commission meeting. This agenda item is an update So we have a representative of the DSA here. Could you please introduce yourself and provide us your title?
On our
I'm going to
collaborative-
have to, again, we're having trouble with the mics.
Sorry.
You're going to have it closed and talk slowly. Sure.
Report on our collaboration and outreach with the disability access community relative to access code, deeply involved in increasing our outreach efforts to the disability community and is a leader in accessibility education. Okay. Specifically, our outreach and education program DSA is working with the California State University Sacramento Center for Collaborative Policy. Once DSA and CSUS develop a proposed formwork for the group, have the work group to be in place before the official start of the code development process for the 2018 rulemaking cycle. Throughout our pre-development cycle activities for the 2016 intervening code cycle, we Objective number 2 is to expand DSA access code training and education programs. Public housing, transient lodging, and social service center establishments, and certified access in 2016, such as San Diego, Riverside, Los Angeles, Paso Robles, dates and locations on the DSA Academy website. We have made outreach to partner with and to take advantage of opportunities to reach a broader audience. We have made outreach to Alto. We have a monthly CASP code discussion group teleconference where we discuss month. Objective number 3 is to include persons with disabilities. These animations illustrate a person with a specific disability using and navigating an accessible The videos are developed on a regular basis, and as they are uploaded to the website, the conduct an exclusive code education class for the disability advocates. DSA is working DSA's role in the process and explain when and how stakeholders can participate. The and those in the general public who are interested in the building standards, the development process. Collaboration on efforts to address outreach and involvement of the disability community in the building standards. State accessibility regulations. DSA has developed extensive resources for the business a frequently asked questions section, a brochure about hiring a CASP, facts and website. In addition to having these documents available on our website, DSA has made Commission on Disability Access. DSA is providing support in the development of a guide that addresses this toolkit, and as components are developed, they will be distributed by the California Commission on Disability Access. DSA held 6 pre-development access code outreach meetings. The August 10th we received more code change proposals at our September 1st meeting, which was open items from the proposals that we received. On October 20th and November 2nd, and on December 16th, the proposed amendments were submitted to the Building Standards Commission, and this is our website. All stakeholders were notified of the availability of meeting transcripts, as well as they were notified Development Activities, DSA, made a commitment to inform stakeholders about the status of code the proposed change was moving forward, on hold for further study, or would not move forward. Amendments that clearly identify existing regulations and proposed amendments. DSA amendment in strikeout and underline the code text if adopted, the rationale for the change, part of our package of proposed amendments, with the intent that the fact sheet would accompany the regularly submitted documents. This report. We look forward to continue a collaborative and productive working relationship with the Commission.
I will now turn to the commissioners for any discussion or questions on item number 7. From people who would like to speak, I will first call on Holland DeLille. And title if appropriate. And Holland, we are having kind of trouble with these mics today, so I'm going to ask you.
I'm a member of Californians for Disability Rights, and I really want to thank you for this opportunity. Is it going to be read into the record? This is from Dr. Bob Siegelman. I really appreciate that was very, made us very hopeful. However, I'm going to made in a meeting those 8 instructions. And I want you, I just abilities to participate in this code development process. Coming before you is incredible. And the traffic yesterday was incredible. Be here because they don't understand this is a highly technical issue, even though in this process is even more technical and even more difficult. So in 1981, when you adopted the very first set of access standards until 11 o'clock these days. Regarding item number 1, which is took office. We just met. We had an advisory body. They sat around a table. They talked. State Architects Building, and we sat down with a lobbyist from Restaurant Association, Hotel Motel, Owners and Managers Association, et cetera, et cetera. I don't remember how many, there were at least 10 people in the room. And we put forth a really good packet that year that came from all the interested parties. A contract with Sac State, but the one time I did participate this last year, it says, please limit comments to 1 minute.
Said that that was absolutely ridiculous and outrageous.
Well,
We discussed
I
it,
thank you,
yeah,
thank you. I
yeah.
just want is a necessary expense if you just let us have a discussion. Provide co-training and education programs to local buildings and other interested parties. I do know that people with disabilities is a great idea, but I didn't see it implemented anywhere. And this is include people with disabilities in the regulations. There's no rationale provided for why they're there. But if you talk to somebody who to implement. So I do hope that they do implement number 3. And I would be environmentally, et cetera, and we could certainly contact you with good speakers for that.
Okay.
Asked to develop better understanding of the code and regulatory process. That I don't think anybody's going to go. It's a very dry subject. Maybe if they come up here more educated, you might listen to them. But I hope you understand. If they're not paid to be there, it's in their professional development. And it's and survive in-home supportive services cutbacks so they can get out of but I presented to you, Secretary Batcher, a couple of years ago. Access Representatives of California. This would be based on a program we had for 15 years in the Department of Regions to their local building departments and businesses. We could put a different wrinkle on it and they could act as that body would be the body that Government Code 4450 and representative of people with disabilities. And so something like ARC spectrum of disability. So I'd like to propose that again to you. Code 4450, et cetera, for the Department of Rehabilitation to be involved in such a with the state architect's office right now. And just one more wrinkle. So doable today with the technology we have. Number 5. And increase participation in the wider disability constituency. Well, for this 2017 code writing cycle. However, they turned out to be I was presenting something and Dennis Corellis responded to me, and it was the first time, and then they took the next person. It was listen, thank you, next, and that was it. Businesses and the public that the ADA and access standards are not static, and dispel mythologies and this is another time it would be very, very good to implement instruction number 3. Mythologies. Number 7 is increase earlier engagement. I've got some documentation to show you exactly, and I think you have copies of it. 19 code change proposals. And I received January 24th, and it says they reviewed my code and develop your suggestion into a formal code change proposal for president. Bingo. That's it. That's it right there. It's like. I won't know what it looks like until it lands on your advisory committee's desk. Maybe it's perfect. Maybe it's misleading. Maybe it doesn't hit the point. I don't know. I won't. Here it is, right there. But other than the fact that I didn't receive any response to the other 18, state architect has to work with us in the development of the proposals. Who is an independent living center director in Los Angeles. Submitted. I never received a response. She received a response. And problems that we're having with the state architect. I have it. See if I can find it. I have the response to Lily Beth. Here it is. That's not it.
You submit that with your paperwork? We have a copy here, Holly?
I'll just summarize it. Oh, you have it? Oh. Stored. It had been taken away when Mr. Whittam took office. And so one the assessment on whether or not the California Building Code can include regulations so I'm beginning to see the problem standards in this state, and it doesn't. What governs access and incorporated in the Civil Code 54 and 55. We always had in place standards, and I can get that wording to you. The standards for fixed seating. Now, Mr. Whittam has taken the model code, which means non-fixed restaurant seating, means spaces under hotel beds. So that's where a lot and I don't know what to do about that. Problem and help us restore the access Mr. Whittam has taken away because he thinks model respect and appreciate what the commission is doing. Still in a bit of a miscommunication area with you. We sent in a petition to you after your January meeting in which you adopted the model code. And we send it to you within 60 days as required by the administrative law. To the state architect. So the state architect got back to us. Jurisdiction to respond to this petition. So jurisdiction to respond to this. So where does that leave us, the 49 people who signed that petition? Stated that you could not respond to some of our items because but we had a requirement to get our petition in within 60 days of your we have been greatly damaged. We had an attorney who's very busy. "49 people sign it," and it went into this round robin. It went nowhere. And seriously. And that really damages us. So we had a lot of hope when and it didn't happen. And then the understandable display and access to all of us, and that was well done, and we really appreciate that. It wasn't but they did not include a notice to everyone that the strikeout really important. That needs to be, and it's simple. It's not rocket science. It's really easy to do that. You just anyway, it's easy to be done, and it needs to be done on a regular basis, and it should be notified. Thank you very much for your consideration.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it very, very much. Here we go. Sorry, I've got my paperwork all over everything.
Good afternoon. Thank you for letting me be here.
Tilt it down a little bit closer to your...
Can someone reach it?
Yeah,
for
we'll
me?
help you with that.
Rights advocate for over 30 years. I live in Elk Grove, California. I work on a number of issues. Motion is getting more difficult. My hand use is more difficult. My physical, for some reason in my mind, that was Monday, not today. And then realized I was like, oh my God, this meeting is going on. I've got to be here. And not make it, before you guys wouldn't hear what I have to say. Or anything like that with this state architect and the staff at DSA. AIA, Cassie, city and county, and all these agencies, and I hear the word California. We were given 1 minute. I have never been so disrespected in my entire life. Code expert, but I'm very much affected by the codes. And for sure, when I went up to the state architect, that he was actually going to hit me. I'm not going to take this crap from you, lady. You know what? Access is about our life. To have the grab bars at 33 inches to 36 inches, if they start putting grab arm reach, when you allow them to put toilet seat it's not accessible. When you reduce the center line of the toilet, you're reducing it for the people that transfer sideways onto the toilet. Men have large you have purview over in the code development. We should be part code input, legitimate code input, to get back emails to say, just how I wanted the toilet paper units to have a sanitary seat cover dispensed. They did invite somebody, that is a manufacturer to give input, and okay, and so there's no discussion on these issues for people with disabilities. Department of Rehab and learned a lot. Am I a code expert? No. To ensure that a program like CAN, and you can call it AR, it was held at the Department of Rehab in Sacramento. Going down Capitol Mall that are not too accessible with drop-offs that I nearly fell out. I'm alive for however much longer I'm alive, like all of us, because we're all going to die. I don't see that happening. It is getting harder for people with disabilities. Provisions that cap a provider's hours, weekly hours at 66 hours, it means nobody can track to knowledge of even how to use cell phones, or even if they have a free cell phone. So people with disabilities trying to find employment, even if you have a master's degree. She's still looking for a good paid job. All of us just plain go away because that mentality still exists. I don't see anyone making proposals. We're going to build a useless wall, okay, to keep people out. And by litigation, because people don't want to provide access. Which how many buildings can one individual make accessible that they encounter in their life? And I don't see that the state architect or DSA doing anything as 2000 classes to better understanding. I see the California State University, whereas 2009 code training for people with disabilities. Well, hello. Of us to really participate. People are living on SSI. They barely get $900 a month even do that. I mean, we're still at a lower rate on SSI than we were.
So if
Okay.
you could sort of summarize, that would be
And
really helpful.
The one proposal that was picked up on that never had a response to my certified mail letter. And I want to see it change. We're not throwaway people. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Arnold. I appreciate it very much. We have one other speaker who has submitted. Mr. Greener, hello.
My name is John Greener. I'm a longtime advocate for agreement with them. California Government Code 4450 states it is accessible and usable by persons with disabilities. with businesses. But the primary purpose of the law is to, once again, there has not been enough input to Mr. Whittam. Scheduled meetings. Persons with disabilities need to be heard. Enter into a discussion regarding code modifications. Persons are the largest minority group our parents, our siblings, our children. Let's make sure persons with disabilities. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Oh, I'm sorry, Mia, we do want to read the letter into.
That Holland sent in and asked that we read it into the record. It's dated January. California Building Standards Commissioners. I understand the political and budgetary of a person with a significant disability and the perspective of a taxpayer trying to protect. Improve access comes back to the state with substantial interest in the increased for someone like me who does not walk or talk clearly because of cerebral For that reason, the Texas Department of Rehabilitation, where I lived then, financed my jobs requiring only a master's degree. Thus, I worked for the state of California for 30 large proportion of people with my disability spend their entire lives unemployed as an investment. Similarly, I ask that you look at the money that businesses pay California many times over in the financial self-reliance that it provides people with.
We will now turn to the phones. Leanne, is there anyone on the phone that would like to speak?
Architect access specialist and called for this agenda item. I'm also very much thank the chairperson, Betjar, and Commissioner McIntyre. I think that we have quite a challenge ahead of us, and I think there's still ways to improve the process. At. For instance, DSA only has interpretation of misperceptions of the authority and direction of DSA. To remind the commission that the state historical board a client or applicant was to propose alternative and they shall include the opinion and comments of state and local accessibility officials and in this great state of California, that just for our historical and qualified exercise to make sure that it's just not on the shoulders of DSA and that you've put out for the state. So DSA has a big task ahead. It's group of organizations and agencies. Mr. Minkin proposed this, and we're still working hard at it. I'm encouraged, but and spearhead solutions to the processes that are already underway. Formed, but why not allow people with disabilities to participate in the making process and the way we grant and provide resources for education. Now the classes that DSA offers are financially restrictive and prohibitive. Are proposing and enforcing, and that concludes my comments.
Two questions remaining.
Hi, this is Susan Chandler. I'm physically handicapped, and they started getting laws passed. They were people who were just normal people. Around. So they got a lot of laws and codes changed so anyway, I wrote you a letter. I'm just trying to summarize it. But we started one of the greatest movements in the world. And if you look at the codes, these changes do not I believe it is a perception that business owners, architects, and others don't want to be told what to do. sure the words are clear so that everyone gets it right. And if you are paralyzed an inch state law by not allowing people with disabilities to participate in the code development process as mandated by Holland DeLille for her most excellent, comprehensive letters and work. Tirelessly in this effort. So we just want meetings and code enforcement and you know, developing the codes. Or other people, an inch is a deal. It might tip you backwards. I've had that happen. Not disregarded. Please do that and read my letter. And
Referenced this morning, the staff at the Building Standards Commission, we received it at 8:23. Receive it, and that they will have a copy. They just didn't have it in their board packet. So thank you.
Be mad when you can't get somewhere because there's a stair.
Leanne, is there someone else on the line, please?
You have one question remaining.
Thank you so much for Holland and Conrad. I know them both and stretch of the way. If we didn't have automatic doors, babies in carriages, shopping malls, etc. Same thing with cell phones. It's a universal what I'm talking about. I've known Connie for quite a long time. Recovery center after I was hit by a car. The grab bar in the roughly. And so for me, trying to reach up to hold on to the grab bar, would be at a reasonable height for anyone to use, not just a lights to be turned on and off automatically as you go in and out of rooms. Everybody, all of us equally in many ways, and not so equally in others. Wearing a cold jacket simply because their body can no longer means that for me, with my visual disability, along with my cerebral palsy, reads out the numbers of the floors. All of this adds up. Those of us with disabilities, especially included, is to be having people on the committee, having people in the training sessions that have the disabilities. In California. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Ms. Fitzgerald.
0 questions remaining.
Okay, thank you. That concludes the
Commissioner, I just want to thank everybody. I had a good discussion this week with Ms. DeLille on the phone. I find very informative and very helpful. In the past, and it's clear that in some last year were intended as a starting structure to moving ahead fast enough. And without getting into sort of from DSA, I actually had the thought that we had a subcommittee for the EEE elements. But I think it would be a group that outside and from people with disabilities, so that we're not sort of limited just to I think that could be a helpful and empowering thing for everybody to get things maybe moving.
meeting. Thank you, Mr. Mickerton. Yes, Mr. Vice Chairman?
I'm trying. I think both Ms. Arnold and Ms. DeLille raised it, of the advisory committee. Interchange between people of like sitting around the table and having a fairly broad group of people. There's a history where people seem to have been more satisfied. Like it was something which was relatively simple in terms of not facilitated meetings and not an out. if folks could even just write down some of, 25-word recollection of what that organization was. Because I'm not sure I go back as far as Holland, but definitely the same vintage. Us getting too deep in the code development process is, I don't think we can both propose and dispose. Then agreeing or disposing of what they talk about, those are two different things.
Right. The point one of working on that, and I have involved the director of the rehabilitation, as Ms. DeLille's paperwork shows. We will reconvene those discussions, but it is part of our 8 points. And notes, I will continue to work with DS. Make sure that Mr. Mickelton is involved in the development and further on comment at this time by the commission.
I'll just add one other thing. This is Commissioner Mickelton. We as commissioners need to take, and I think that the focus that I'm imagining for to note that. And I also want to say that the people about some of the process elements, I want to say that I make the process better and to make it good and make it inclusive. And we're recognizing the people who are pointing out the problems that I think bringing both of those sides together, that we can actually make this better.
And their efforts to bring forth implementation of the 8 points.
This is Holland DeLille. Is it possible that you could address
violate Bagley Keene in so doing?
I see.
I'll allow council to address that.
From the DSA, and the Bagley Keene Act does require public comment. The commission can the actual substantive matter, and that petition cannot be addressed at this time by the commission.
understanding that the model code governs California law.
This item, and I certainly do not think you need to be thinking about going to court over it, but
I need to understand it better, okay?
Right.
And also I have to compare it to what is in Chapter 1 of the administration.
And you will let us know what you find out?
Yes.
and
yes.
we will.
Yep.
Thank you. Next on the agenda is item number 8, which is future agenda items. Any other items to come forth? Okay, thank you. Does anyone from the public have future agenda items?
You have 0 questions remaining.
Okay, seeing none, that concludes the public comment portion. Thank you.
Second, Commissioner Sasaki.
The meeting of the Buildings